What is good, Defenders? Welcome to episode 311 of Defenders of the Bank, the podcast for the soccer team in Los Angeles. That's right, there's only one, and LAFC took care of business yesterday at the Rose Bowl. What is good, everybody? You know my voice. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, and we are still coming down from our high. All due respect to the 42s, nothing to do with you guys, but it's the high of winning and finally getting the monkey off our back about the Rose Bowl and winning in big stadiums for the second time in a row after we beat Atlanta earlier this year. All good things as LAFC comes up roses in our 2-1 victory over the Galaxy. But it's not just me on here. You can already see him, and you're about to hear him. That's right. The one, the only Christian Philly Philemon.
Hello, Los Angeles. It's a beautiful, warm day here in the valley in beautiful Burbank, California, as I'm coming to you from world-famous Philomonster Studios. It's a good one. And to your point, Scarf, trying to maintain that high. Got my cup of coffee here at 5:26 p.m. in my Cheshire Cat Alice in Wonderland glass because I've got that grin on my face ear to ear. It's good times. And despite the fact that neither of our score predictions came to fruition, we still beat the butts. We still kick the crap. You should say not beat the butts. Yeah, kick their butts. Kick the crap out of the Galaxy. So hence, dude wipes. Not only to wipe your rear end, Galaxy, but to wipe the tears off your face. We have now won 6 out of the last 7 contests against these guys. The series is tied. It feels really good to be a fan and a supporter of this club.
That's right. 6 out of 7 of our last MLS or MLS Cup playoff games. And the series is now tied. 9 wins apiece, 5 draws between us. We, of course, know our playoff record against them. That would be 2-0 in the most important matches that matter. But you know what? In the derby, in the 110 collision, in El Tráfico, every match, every minute matters. And that was certainly the case at the Rose Bowl, 4th of July. By the way, Philly, episode 311. You ever listen to 311, the Omaha, Nebraska kind of rap alternative band?
I mean, the song Down was on my exercise playlist for the longest time. And it'd be a good song to have started the podcast with, but we don't have enough money to pay copyright issues. So we couldn't do it. But amber is definitely not the color of my energy. It's black and flipping gold, baby.
Yeah, Down and all mixed up. That one self-titled album, right? Their first one from like 95. That was
back in the days where people were wearing Jinko jeans and Airwalks.
Oh yeah, those massive flared out jeans at the bottom. And oh yeah, it's, by the way, I teach middle school. That was back like 2 years ago, but this year it died out. So I love it. Amber, the only thing amber is the color of the urine stream of all the Carson fans that had to find their way out of the Rose Bowl. That's for sure. So excited to be talking here on episode 311 about this big win. Let's get into a very quick little news and notes, and then we'll talk about a little bit more related to this match. This one's kind of a sad this day in LAFC history because the 4th of July was our buddy John McCarthy's birthday. Happy birthday, John. You know what? We love you here at Defenders of the Bank, but let me speak for all of the black and gold faithful when I say that's what you get for wearing the Herbalife sash across your chest. Nothing but love to you, buddy. Happy birthday. And at least I didn't piss you off at the press conference the way our buddy Scott seemed like he did, talking about that second half save that you had on Kai Kamara. That was a tense moment in the Galaxy press conference. But Philly, we didn't really help out our friend of the podcast, John McCarthy, celebrate his birthday. And you know what? I think you're okay with that.
I don't have a problem with that. I have nothing but love for John. I did an interview with him on Soccer in 60 just a couple of weeks ago. John's a stand-up guy and always has so many funny sound bites in his press conferences. The terms suck ass were used at the very least once that day. And that moment that you were talking about between him and Scott French, I don't know how tense it was. I mean, he just legitimately forgot about the save that he made on Kai Kamara, which is almost an exact replica of the goal that Kai scored in the first half. But
I don't
either
know.
way,
It felt like he didn't care too much about Scott's comment about, yeah, but you got him in the second half. And he was like, okay, but we lost. We
yeah,
lost.
yeah. Greg Vanny didn't seem to care too much about Scott's questions when we came
No,
in late anyway, but that's neither here nor there.
Scott definitely took one for the team yesterday, and I felt bad. One of the quotes I remembered from John in the press conference yesterday was, "Don't worry, one day I'll win at the Rose Bowl," talking about both last year and this year on both sides. Look, at least it wasn't John McCarthy's fault that Galaxy did not win this
No,
game. You got to put more than
not.
one past Hugo, and that certainly wasn't happening. Philly,
That's a funny comment, by the way. Here, check this out.
Oh yeah,
Jake Gutierrez. At least he was consistent with letting in goals.
right.
Oh.
2 goals apiece each 4th of July is what John is going to allow. Philly, they already came out with team of match day 24 regarding the 4th of July. And you know what? We got 3 on it. And I mean, I'll say this. I personally think, other than maybe Giorgio Chiellini at times last year, 1 or 2 matches I can remember with Laurent Simon and 1 or 2 that I can remember with Walker Zimmerman, I'm going to say that yesterday was the best single defensive performance of the season by anybody on LAFC, and that was Sergey Palencia.
Oh, yeah.
Sergey was world-class yesterday, absolutely dominating Joseph Paintsel up and down the pitch, and didn't matter whenever they switched sides. Even Julian Aude, not Julian Aude, excuse me. Oh my God, Peck, Gabriel Peck, even Gabriel Peck. Those 2 guys, Sergey Palencia did everything he possibly could. Not the best day for Ryan Hollingshead on the other side, but Sergey had a wonderful game. Of course, he makes the starting 11 for the team of match day 24. Denny Bawanga making the bench of the team, and Coach Steve Trundolo making the coach of the team. Yay. All right. Good job. We got 3. We did it.
Yeah. Palencia did have a great game, and we'll talk about that. I was reading somewhere, and I don't know, I didn't factor in the date, but did I just see somewhere along the lines that Steve just had twins? Speaking of head coach, I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere along the lines. I didn't know that he was expecting more kids. Maybe it was an older periodical. I know I saw it on Facebook earlier today as I was scrolling, but at that point, the coffee didn't kick in. So I was just mindlessly scrolling just to awaken myself to get ready for Germany's unfortunate loss against Spain in the Euros.
That's crazy. He didn't even look pregnant for all these months. I didn't even know Steve was expecting.
Oh boy, here we go. Here comes the dad jokes. The dad jokes.
Sorry.
Scarf, if you'd be any more cornier, you'd have been
Billy,
all ears right there.
I didn't want to bring it up, but since you did, how you doing, bud? I'm sorry. That I don't know how that's not a penalty. I don't know how that's not a penalty for your Germans. Should have absolutely been. I don't know. I don't know what a penalty is anymore. Julian Nagelsmann definitely doesn't know what a penalty is anymore. I mean, look, Spain did put 2 past you, especially that late one. But, I mean, you should have had a PK. You should have had something for that.
Don't even get me started on that. Just when you think, it's so funny. There's a couple of rules that you start to see between offside and handball and stuff like that, where when you feel like you got to grasp, something completely changes. And then you had a rules official come on to explain it. Look, point blank, it hit his hand. I mean, it did. There's nothing more obvious than that. It wasn't glued to his body. It was out. Right. Whether or not it made him bigger, whatever. It still hit his hand. If you go back years ago, that would have been a handball, and they would at least had an opportunity. But the Germans, as Germans do, didn't give up or didn't let the referee completely dishevel them, because they did have a couple of chances at the very end. If Füllkrug's header was just a little bit more to the left, we're going straight to PKs. But they made it a contest. They threw everything at Spain. Spain was the heavy favorite to win anyway. Proud of how this German team competed. And honestly, I'd say the future is quite rosy for them heading into the World Cup in a couple of years. They put up some stink fests the last 2 World Cups, but this is a very solid team, as the old guard will be phased out. Respect to Toni Kroos, he's done. Respect to Thomas Müller, he's done. It's always going to be tough to beat the Germans one way or another, but to lose to Spain at home in Deutschland, that kind of sucks. But anyway, let's talk about the happier part of our day, and that's the fact that, well, we gave the Galaxy the need to utilize dude wipes.
And I would like to point out, at least your favored nation makes the World Cup. I'm still hurting because Italy is still not in the World Cup. So there's that.
I'm not.
By the way, Kylian Mbappe took one off the mask today. That was pretty gnarly. He went down in a heap of pain. He might not play in the next. There's a whole lot going on in the Euros. Euros are
France
fun.
lives to fight another day, though.
Euros are fun, dude. The Turkey match. I can't wait to see Turkey tomorrow. That's gonna be fun. That crowd.
Berlin. I don't think you have an idea how many Turkish people.
They said there's 700,000 Turkish people live in Berlin.
And that's just Berlin. Now, it's really easy to traverse around Germany from top to bottom via the Eisbahn, or whatever they call it now, the Intercity Express. There's going to be so much chaos there. Turkey is going to really be a tough team to battle. The Turks are always a tough team to compete against. And it's going to be fun. Other than Germans, the biggest population of people outside of Germans in that country, at least when I lived there, was Turks. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and real quick, by the way, ACFC lost to Orlando Pride 3-0 in their last match. Their next match is tomorrow at BMO, July 6th against New York, New Jersey, Gotham, or New Jersey, New York, Gotham. Whoever they are, they play in Gotham. So that'll be fun. Maybe Batman will show up at the match. And then LAFC 2. Their next match is Saturday, July 6th as well, but that's over in St. Louis at 4 p.m. So if you want, tune in on YouTube to LAFC 2 for their next match on Saturday. Our next match is just Sunday. We'll get to that in a minute. But this last match, Philly featured 70,076 people. 70,076. Philly, you think the Galaxy maybe inflated those numbers by 77 people so that they could be only the second club in MLS to we got a JK. Only the second club in MLS to get 70,000 people in a building more than once?
Look, we were told earlier in the week that it was going to be around 40,000 and they'd be lucky to get 50. Clearly the giving away and maybe the last minute ticket purchases, because the fees got dropped, really helped escalate the number of people that went there. But when you and I were in the press box about an hour or so beforehand, it looked scarce. Let's just put it that way. So it looked like it was going to be about 40, 50. But then I would say 10, 15 minutes in, you start to look around and you realize, wow, this place actually is quite filled. You, me, and Max were talking about this. You had predicted 65. So I don't know. Everybody inflates numbers. I mean, hell, WrestleMania 3's numbers were inflated. We figured that out not that long ago. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did inflate those numbers, but it was a much better crowd than initially anticipated. It did not hit the mark that hit last year, but let's not kid ourselves. That game was actually scheduled in February last year. We got rained out because of that torrential downpour. The Rose Bowl couldn't fix it, and so they pushed it back. We all had tickets. More people bought tickets. I'd say there's your difference from the 12,000.
And I do want to say, I'm going to say it out loud. It's the LAFC podcast, and we keep it as real as we possibly can here. You and I had a beautiful view because where the press box is on the south side, it's sort of overlooking the Galaxy end, the supporters end of the pitch. Oh, Reimer, love you, buddy. Sorry about that. It's looking over the Galaxy end of the pitch. And look, Philly, if we're keeping it real, the Galaxy end of the pitch was way more full than the black and gold end of the pitch was over on the other side, especially towards the top there. I was a little surprised that we didn't get as much away support to fill at least that particular spot. But that being said, the 3252 were as loud as they ever were. The Galaxy supporters found the way to tear another tifo 2 years in a row. Congratulations, Galaxy supporters, tearing 2 tifos in a row. But either way, ISIS in the chat is saying most of them were just employees. I get it. But you know what? They made it look good. They were all wearing white. They were all supporting the Galaxy. They made it cosmetically look good, which is about all that the Galaxy do these days because they couldn't make it happen on the pitch. They at least had it look good in the stands. But absolute scenes after the match, Philly. And we'll talk about that later in the stands with LAFC.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the 3252, the people that were there were loud and proud. And it was stated like via Galaxy social media, for it to be a whiteout. And I know we don't have very many white kits, folks. I know not all of you have that inaugural away kit, the YouTube one from 2018. I've got a couple, but not many of y'all do. So there was an awful lot of whites in the crowd. But I don't want to talk about the LAFC supporters that couldn't come or didn't go or refused to go, whatever the reason may be, I applaud everybody who did go because they bared witness to our first victory in the Rose Bowl, and it was a good game. It's the freaking rivalry, the 110 collision, for Christ's sakes. On the calendar, it should be circled. You and I have only missed one of those games. Actually, two if you consider the COVID Cup down in Orlando. But for those that went there, y'all were in for a real treat. It was a good time, and the party continues on this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, look, the flyover was cool. We got to see the tail end of it in the press box. That was neat. Look, going to the Rose Bowl sucks, right? But it's certainly made a lot better.
All right, Scarf.
Oh, it's certainly made it a lot better being in the press box, right? And being able to watch, sitting next to Max Bretos for the whole match, and then getting to be with a lot of the other people there in the press box. Jim Hill was there. Our good friend Kevin Baxter was there. It was really nice to see Andy and Justin and everybody, Scott obviously, and Josh and all the people that we see in the press every day. That was a whole lot of fun. But that being said, let's get into the match. Obviously, Greg Vanney, and it's weird to hear over in Carson and Galaxy Land on the podcasts and in some of the articles, they're praising Greg Vanney down there in Carson for the job he's doing this year. And look, they're playing very, very well. But it was Vanney out for most of last season, and now Vanney can stay, I guess. 11, 3, and 7 heading into the match, just 3 losses in 21 matches on the season coming in for the Galaxy. That puts them second in the West, the overall tiebreaker being wins. They have 11. We have 12 coming in. And look, they were level with us on a lot coming into this match. Same amount of goals scored, same amount of points. Even XG, which is a crazy stat to be level on. I think the difference over the course of the season so far leading into this match was something like 0.04 or 0.06, something like that, which is just insane over the course of all of the matches that we have played. And Philly, I think what you and I talked about was how nice it was to finally see these two clubs heading into a match at the top of their respective games, not even just at the top of their divisions, but these two clubs, it could be argued, playing better than any teams right now in Major League Soccer.
Of course, this wasn't just a game about bragging rights. It's always going to be a game about bragging rights. You don't need me to tell you that, whether one team is in first or last. It's always going to be about bragging rights. But this time, it was a real good indicator as to where both teams stand and how good they are representing the top of the Western Conference. Both teams still could very likely represent the West Conference, but we also got to throw RSL in there. So because of how competitive both teams would be and how they stacked up on the pitch, individually, statistically, this was going to go down as a really interesting, high-intense match, one that we could not have expected as a blowout. And I've been seeing some stuff on social media, and I got to correct some of the LAFC folks on there in social media saying, how this is the best Carson team since we came out versus the worst LAFC team. Where did you get that rhetoric from? It was the worst start for an LAFC team. The fact that somebody's out there saying, an LAFC supporter, that we're the worst LAFC team. No. We've already set multiple club records this year on several cases. So I don't know where the rhetoric comes that this is the worst LAFC team that we've had. But the cool part about it is they really are, or were, I should say, on their high. We're only going to get better. So that game on September 14th is going to feature 2 players that were not there this past Thursday. In that, Kike Oliveira, because he'll be back from his time in Copa America playing with Uruguay. And, of course, Olivier Giroud, who's extended his time in Europe as a result of France's win versus Portugal. So we are only going to get better. They're still going to stay the same. Reminds me of a Matthew McConaughey phrase from back in the day. Yes?
I got to interject. We might be losing a big name as well come the July deadline. Unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot of smoke behind Matty Bogusz potentially being sold off.
I have not seen any of this, and I am all over that ish. Where did you see this?
I hear you. It's what I've heard from people who have asked Steve Cherundolo about it, people who have asked John Thorrington about it, people in the media. The problem is he's playing so well right now that everybody is noticing. I mean, you have to figure Poland's going to call him in for whatever next round that they're
That'll
playing
be
in.
September the next time they play.
I'm just saying, look, I think it would be awful if we lose a player the likes of Matty Bogusz. It could be something
but I
that
still
sets
don't
us
see
back.
anything that says we are.
Well, I mean, look, it could be something that sets us back for the rest of the season, trying to figure out how to replace that kind of a talent, right? And yes, if we bring in not just Olivier Giroud, but you and I both know, Philly, there are other names, other people coming behind Olivier Giroud so that we can really get this ship full steam ahead. But I'm just saying, for everybody out there, July 1st was when one of the windows opened, but July 18th is the big one. Hold on to your butts, people, because it would not surprise me if, unfortunately, we lose him for a large sum of money. By the way, it needs to be a large sum of money. But what we know is that John Thorrington has always said he is going to do what is in the best interest of the player as often as he can. Oh, I see what you did there, LAFC in the chat. Nicely done. But either way, we also have a new kit dropping, right? Thank you, Chris Lafferty, our third kit for the first time. What is it, like the MLS like originals collection or something? It's just so funny that like we're a part of something that MLS is calling like their vintage or originals collection. We'll see. I don't know. But yes, Philly, the other good part is we win the season series with a victory in this match as we beat Carson 2-1 earlier in the year. Of course, Timothy Tillman and Denis Bouanga scoring for LAFC, and Julien Audet for the Galaxy. All those goals coming in the first half. And look, we absorbed so much pressure in that first match against Carson. They completed almost 700 passes, possessed the ball 68% of the time. They passed, if I remember correctly, somewhere around 90% successful passing. But none of those passes went anywhere. And you know what? It took them an awful long time, Philly, to figure out how to make any of those passes go anywhere. And when we weathered their best storm, after that, we took the air out of the ball. We'll get into it. Philly, you want me to get into Galaxy's roster so we can get the show on the road here?
Sure. The only thing I just want to say, yeah, I mean, people always inquire about players. That goes on a daily basis. Agents put rumors in the rumor mill just to spark up controversy. But until I see that reported on a legitimate outlet, one that doesn't have a check mark in, like, I don't know, Romania, I will believe it. Until then, speculation. And I might be just a little angry because I don't want Matty Bogusz to go because he's
you and I feel the same way about that. We feel.
But anyway, let's get into the Galaxy lineup, and then obviously we'll do what we do.
All right, so no Gaston Brugman.
That wasn't a rumor, Genuine Cougar. That almost happened.
Yeah. No Gaston Brugman in the lineup for Carson, still recovering from an injury as they come out in their 4-2-3-1 with both of their mascots, Cosmo and whatever that other thing is that looks like is that a Galaxian? I don't know what that is. But either way, coming with John McCarthy on his birthday in the keeper spot. Julien Audet, Maya Yoshida, Jalen Neal, and Mickey Yamane, dare I say, a much better back line than Carson has been trotting out over the last few seasons. A mix of really good, solid veteran talent in Maya Yoshida and Mickey Yamane, both members of the Japanese national team. And then Jalen Neal, who's super young and super good, and Julien Audet, just 21 years old, obviously scoring a goal against us in the last match. They have so much talent on that back line, but it took quite a bit. Philly was just handed some food. What were you just handed?
Nothing says love in my household quite like handing me a slice of pizza. What Up Dough is the newest pizzeria in Burbank. And I got to tell you, as a born and raised New Yorker, I'm a bit of a pizza snob. I will tell you that LA pizza, sorry folks, does not compare to New York pizza. However, What Up Dough on Magnolia, pretty darn good.
I mean, they can sponsor us if they want. In the midfield, Edwin Cerrillo and Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Delgado, Joseph Paintsel, Ricky Pooch, Gabriel Peck, and Dejan Joveljic. Look, this is a talented Galaxy starting lineup. I hate to admit it, but it absolutely is a talented lineup, which is why I think it's so important that we play the way that we did. Do you have a Kylian Mbappe bobblehead?
That looks like Kylian Mbappe to you?
Have you not ever heard the whole thing about him looking like a Ninja Turtle?
That's Michelangelo. I know. I
No
can't say that.
reference.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, with the mask. Yeah. I get it.
Go down the rabbit hole on that one. That's a fun one. In the 18, Diego Fagundes, Miguel Berry, John Nelson, and Mauricio Cuevas are the 4 that would come out for the Galaxy. Actually, Alan, if there's anybody who knows pizza spots here in Los Angeles, this guy. I've lived here my whole life. I've gone to as many pizza spots as possible. But yeah, Isis, do your best. Philly, how about the starting lineup as you take a bite of your slice? This is good podcasting right here for LAFC.
As I wipe my face from this delicious what up dough pizza.
Did you use a dude wipe?
No, right now those are reserved only for Galaxy fans. Once this pod is over today, I'll utilize the dude wipes. And all jokes aside, dude wipes are actually really good. They come scented and unscented, and more importantly, they're flushable. Use the dude wipes to avoid the skid marks. Moving right along. LAFC's starting lineup, no different than what it's been in the past. And no surprise, they didn't utilize a lot of substitutions. That, on the other hand, was a surprise. Starting with your keeper, Hugo Lloris. Backline, Ryan Hollingshead, Aaron Long, Jesus David Murillo, and Sergey Palencia, who just kept on putting Galaxy players in his pockets. Edward Atuesta, whose scarf will finally admit had a good game. Ilie Sanchez, Timothy Tillman, Denny Bawanga, Sky, Kai Kamara, and Matty Bogusz. The players, I'm not even going to go over LAFC's bench because only 2 subs came in. It was just Maxim Cho and Eddie Segura, who is now 1 game away or 1 appearance away from being only the 8th player in LAFC history to have contributed, factored in, played in 100 games for the black and gold. And that rounds up your LAFC starting lineup. We were going to go all in, baby. No fear, no shame. All systems go.
And I love, speaking of all systems go, match kickoff wound up being 7:50-ish p.m., which made the second half start at about 9 o'clock, by the way, for all of you on the East Coast. The second half started for you on what we like to call Friday. But what I loved, and I looked up at the clock. Andy, what's up, brother? We love you. My favorite thing that I looked up at the clock, saw 6:02 p.m., a full hour and 48 minutes before kickoff. That's when the LAFC support, the 3252 and that end of the stadium, started their first bleep the Galaxy chant. It was 6:02, an hour and 48 minutes before the match, and they were already going and did not stop until probably 10, 15 minutes after the match with the celebration that happened there in that end of the stadium. So look, you can say, I can say, because I'm the one that said it, I can say what I want about a couple people missing up top in that section, but at 6:02 p.m., that's when the chorus of the black and gold began their chanting. It was incredible. So proud of these guys. Philly, it was kind of a feeling out session for the first 6, 7, 8 giggity minutes. But one thing that I noticed after the 8th minute, when we earn a corner off a Denis Bawanga block shot and Matty Bogusz takes that corner, it was an awful corner. And what we saw from the jump is that every single time we had a corner, Carson was looking to counter fast and hard, led by Ricky Puig, who was off to the races. I thought Sergey was a little tentative for that play on Ricky Puig going 1v1. And I think it was from that moment on that Sergey Palencia said, you know what? Enough of that being tentative stuff. I'm going at these guys physically. Hugo Lloris with a nice save there in the 8th minute off of a counter. And that was something that we definitely had to contend with over the course of the match.
Everybody should check out Andy's podcast. He just started it. Andy's been covering LAFC and soccer in this area on a number of occasions. From the Northeast, he's a Celtics fan, so he won't hold that against him. And Chris Lafferty, you and Andy would get along very well, as Chris Lafferty is a big supporter of the Hartford Athletic, and Andy is a big supporter now of Rhode Island FC. Had to throw that in there. Let's put it this way, Scarf. One thing we learned early on in the game is with how Danny Bouanga sliced through defenders within the first 5 minutes, and I'll get back to your point in just a second, how tentative the Galaxy defenders were going to be against us. And this would be a theme that we would see throughout the course of the entire game. In addition to your point about Ricky Puig going off on the run, yes, always a scary moment when Galaxy is on the counter. They've got the killer peas making their run between Puig, between Paintsill, and between Peck. Those guys are fast and they connect real well. But Sergey played Ricky well, and they had some time together at Barcelona within the academy. But one thing that Ricky did, and I think it might be a theme that you will see with the Galaxy all season long, is he did not connect with Paintsill on the right or Peck on the left. Had he did, early on in the game, I'm pretty sure we would be down by 1. And the complaint with Ricky is he's not passing the ball. He doesn't look up. He's exciting. He was box to box on that play, came out sprinting, but all of his shots were from well outside of the 18, which is a testament to how the defense played. All the Galaxy shots were from outside of the 18 because they were played so well. But had Ricky connected with either wingers on the left and the right, we're looking at a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, look, I think it was one of those things where, and I was shocked to hear about this, that there are factions of Carson supporters who actually believe that club is better with Ricky Puig on the bench and Diego Fagundes starting. Now, Diego Fagundes, for the record, Carson is undefeated when they start Diego Fagundes. So maybe there's something to it, but I don't think Puig played well in this match or against us in the last match either. I think maybe it's an LAFC thing. I don't know. But it is very interesting to me to see the bit of hero ball that we saw over and over and over again from Ricky Puig. They changed things up a little bit in the second half for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But it was something that I was a little surprised to see. It took about 15 minutes for LAFC to figure something out, but unfortunately, Philly, it was woodwork for Edward Atuesta. A great little back pass from Denis Bouanga. We have seen the passing from Denis Bouanga just become more and more electric as the season goes on. It should have been a goal. Plenty of space in that goal to the right, I believe it was, of John McCarthy. Yes. And, I mean, off that post, he absolutely pinged it. Should be 1-0 15 minutes in, and all I'm thinking is, come on, no, we need those breaks right now.
He clanked it, that's for sure. But then if you remember, the ball it trickled over to Tillman, and Tillman had a pretty good look at John McCarthy. He just got a little too much grass instead of leather, which prevented us from going through. But early on in the game, 2 really good opportunities for both sides. Thankfully, neither one, not thankfully for us, they didn't capitalize on them. But what we would see is, Denny again slicing through the defenders, 15 minutes or so later, carving them up like a 4th of July brisket, putting the slower Galaxy defenders in the cooker. Through ball in from Hollingshead into Kamara. His attempt gets blocked, but it's nice seeing Kai Kamara out there. And shout out to our buddy Leo in Iowa, who mentioned that Kamara was going to get the revenge goal in the Rose Bowl. But, we go to the 37th minute, unless you had something else. Puig had another shot from outside, and I already explained the fact that this was their entire first half. I mean, he's taking a shot from a geographic proximity that is similar to the Galaxy's geographic proximity to downtown LA. A lot of distance, my friends. That would be the entire Galaxy offense in the first 45 minutes, but we would get ourselves on the scoreline, Scarf, in the most beautiful of ways.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's take a step back for a second, because you did mention that I felt that Edward Atuesta played a much better game today than he has in the past.
You did swear his name several times and how you're done with him, so your entire narrative changed.
No. Entire narrative is certainly not changing. There were still times where
it totally changed.
There were still times where there was a little bit of a sloppy giveaway here and there, but you know what? That's because he plays in MLS, and if he was better, he'd be over in the Prem or something like that. Ouch. But I do want to mention, for sure, some good team defending in the box several times over the course of those 15 minutes in between the post by Atuesta and when Kai Kamara kind of blew that one shot there in the 30th minute. Really thought Kai should have put that one away. The guy has 146 goals up until this point in his MLS career. So I was hoping he would get 147 there. More on that in a moment. But in the 36th minute, I do want to point out where I saw maybe the light go on for Edward Atuesta. Ricky Pooch did one of those things where Ricky Pooch just beats you on an angle, and now you have to chase Ricky Pooch. And maybe part of this was that Edward Atuesta missed Ricky Pooch in his attempt to grab him on the way by. Or maybe it was actually that he grabbed a little bit of Ricky Pooch and thought, you know what, that's a child. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to pick up a silly yellow.
You wanted to untuck his shirt.
Yeah, and then like took the grasp away and allowed Pooch to run through, and Atuesta just kind of picked up defending from there. It was a smart non-yellow for Edward Atuesta in the 36th minute that I personally believe that if Edward Atuesta picks up that yellow card, all Ricky Pooch spends the rest of the match doing, all the rest of the midfield spends the rest of the match doing, is to attack Edward Atuesta because they know how immature he can be. I can't tell you how much of a moment that was for me. Philly, I've been so hard, and I will continue to be so hard on Edward Atuesta over the course of the season, but you were right there, right next to me, where I said good things over and over, especially after this moment, about Edward Atuesta in the 36th minute.
Yes. I mean, I would laugh at the number of times that you would say, I'm so done with Atuesta. Damn it, Edward. Like, it actually becomes kind of funny at times. You could have a really good drinking game with it. If you get to go to a game at LAFC and you're with the scarf, anytime he mentions Edward Atuesta, take a sip of whatever you're drinking. I promise you by halfway through the first half, you'll already have a tough time coming out of your seat. There's no question about that. But he might have been dispossessed a couple of times. Ilie Sanchez, same story with him. So we can't blame things completely on Edward Atuesta. But what we can say is that Sergey Palencia had his best defensive game, arguably, of his LAFC career. I mean, right around that 40th minute, he had a great tackle that caused a turnover that created some space for Matty to strike at J-Mac. J-Mac made the save, and J-Mac had several tremendous saves. Seconds after that, Ilie almost gets himself a header. But then again, J-Mac is there, but Matty Bogusz becoming that set piece specialist, baby. Why don't you walk us through the 40th minute?
Look, and I want to remind everybody, all this chaos happens within about 3 or 4 minutes of the first half, because a lot of people out there, Philly, you mentioned some interesting takes online. A lot of people out there said, God, LAFC really didn't do a whole lot in the second half. Carson really came at us. I'm going to point out the same thing to y'all about the second half as we're going to point out here about the first half. Look, it is Matty magic once again off the corner kick. And look, John McCarthy said it in the postgame press conference when I asked him about it. There are very few people in Major League Soccer that can jump with Kai Kamara. And when the service is right, that is game, set, and match. And what we have seen from Matty Bogusz now, Philly, over and over and over. Oh, all messed up. Don't know what to do. I like it. Good job, Panda. I was reading her comment. Over and over and over, Philly, we have seen the service be perfect now for Kai Kamara over the last several matches. And Philly, 147 on the career of one Kai Kamara.
It's amazing. 147 MLS regular season goals. He scored 3 goals in the last 4. His third career goal against the LA Galaxy, obviously his first as a member of LAFC. But then you got Matty Bogusz, who gets the credit for a dime. And now he's had a goal or an assist in the last 10 games. Matty Hattie was MLS Player of the Month. He's now got 9 goals, 5 assists in the last 10 games. We've got 9-0-1 in that time frame. I mean, that was awesome that Sky Air Kai took care of business. But you know what else is fun about that moment?
What else?
A cup being thrown at Edward Atuesta. He catches it and threw it back. Bravo on you, Edward, for having the wherewithal to make that catch. Now, yeah, I have something to say, but okay, since you are shushing me.
You're early on that one, Philly. That was after the second goal.
What?
When Atuesta caught the cup.
Was it?
Yes.
No.
I promise.
After Denis scored the goal?
That's the one. He does the flip.
Get out of here.
He does the flip over in that corner over there, and everybody throws things. And Edward Atuesta with the left hand, boom, grabs the cup, holds it up.
I don't know, Scarf. I rewatched the highlights. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, if that's the case, I'll hold my thoughts for there because yeah, you're right. Like the great Billy Mays of the infomercials would say, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, and look, it happens within a minute or two of us scoring our first goal. Edward Atuesta went down, and I'll be honest, my first thought was, come on, Edward, you're probably fine. Didn't look like it was anything. But then, Philly, we got the joy of replay, which is a wonderful thing. BMO Stadium, if you can hear us. I know you're a stadium. You're an inanimate object. But please listen. It would be great to see a replay of things every now and then. At least they showed it in Carson. It was a potentially negative outcome for the home team, the Carson Galaxy, and yet they showed the replay so that we could see it. They showed it. Maybe it was just on television in the press box that they showed it. Maybe I'm even wrong. I don't know. It's off the rails right now. Either way, he goes down. He's down for a while. They take a look at it, and Denis Bouanga steps up. And look, if you're going to win a golden boot, you got to get a few by penalty, I believe. Is this his 6th penalty goal of the season? Something like that here now?
6 for 6 this season, 9 for 9 in his LAFC career.
Yeah, look, you're going to need a few PKs if you're going to win that golden boot. And 6 for 6, Philly. I teach math for a living, so I can tell you, just in case you guys aren't sure out there, that's a pretty damn good percentage.
You got really mad at me and Max Bredos in the press box because Max made the comment about Denis, and then I made the comment about him being 100%, and then you both smacked me. It's like, whoa, I didn't start this. I was just reiterating everything, and of course, I got a little shook. We were all a little shook when Denis was there, but he blasts it to the right of John, or the left of John McCarthy. His Denis' right, John's left. But yes, 6 for 6. He's completely perfect. Now I could talk about Edward Atuesta, and you were right. I had it in my notes. I was feeling a little froggy on things. It's all good. But here's what I just have to say. I loved how he caught it. I loved how he threw it back. And some will say that Atuesta should not have celebrated near the Carson section. But to hell with that rhetoric. I get that in some leagues, people throw things, but not in every league. I get that in some leagues, there's match fixing, homophobic chants, racist remarks thrown at the players. You can go to Europe or South America for any of that. But does that mean we can and should have all this in Major League Soccer? No. And most of the people that would say that, my comments on this are soft, those guys are typically soft around the waistline and in between the ears. There is really no reason that players should ever get things thrown at them. I don't care if they do that at a Boca game. I don't care if they do that at River Plate. I don't care if they do that at Estadio Azteca. Keep that stuff there. Stop throwing ish at players. It's just the most classless, cowardice thing you can possibly see.
By the way, every corner kick I've seen at the Euros so far, the play-by-play guys call them missiles. Like, oh, they're getting more missiles thrown at them. I guess they know it's coming. A couple of guys got hit with one for sure in the last match I saw. Look, if you're going to throw it, apparently don't throw it at Edward Atuesta because he's going to catch it and he's going to spike that cup right at you. So, look, huge first half, Philly. Another little bit of hero ball in stoppage time as Ricky Pooch takes another shot from distance there in the 5th minute. But really, we play out the string. We go into the half. It was a bit of a nervy end to the half, certainly, because Carson really started to put a few more bodies forward. But honestly, nothing to show for it, Philly. An incredible first half going into the locker room, 2-0 at the half. Massive first 45 for LAFC.
Yeah, and look, Galaxy had a lot of possession, way more touches, but we had far more shots and shots on target. And Greg Vanney said this during the press conference. This is my words. Galaxy looked rough and lacked urgency. And Greg Vanney mentioned in the press conference they were purposeless and it was death by 10,000 passes. They really weren't doing anything. And as we alluded to at the top of the broadcast, all of their shots, every single one of them came from well outside of the box, which again is a testament to how solid the back line was. But as John McCarthy alluded to on his birthday press conference, it was a tale of two halves. Because the Galaxy were as purposeless as they were within the first 45. They really came out swinging hardcore in the second half.
Yeah, and by the way, let's not get lost in another crazy stat. Now, I think maybe this only is a stat because the season ended on Carlos Vela, but in 2019, Carlos scored a goal in each one of the last 9 matches of the season, which is pretty crazy. But now Matty Bogusz, with goal contributions in 10 straight, takes the record from Carlos Vela for LAFC. 10 straight matches with a goal contribution is a new record for a single season or for any multiple seasons in a row. Incredible record there. Really, really happy for Matty Bogusz. Again, it worries for sure that he is going to be leaving. I can attest that Max Breto smacked Philly after that happened. I was upset at both of them because it's that broadcaster curse, that jinx. That
There's no such thing.
He hasn't given up a hit yet here going into the 9th, and then the first pitch gives up a hit. But either way, Philly, a little bit of mind games from LAFC. I want to get your take on it because I have a take on the mind games, but I want to get your take on it. Galaxy come out after the half. They're ready. They're taking the opening kick, and everyone just kind of waiting. And they weren't waiting for the Afro Jack set to finish. Max Bretos and I had to fill Philly in on who Afrojack was. But they weren't waiting for Afrojack to finish. They were waiting for LAFC to come out. And Philly, they took a good couple of minutes before they came out of the locker room. Some head games being played there. Your thoughts on if that was necessary or not?
Yeah, I mistook Afro Jack for Afro Man, the song. I was going to go to class until I got high. Yeah, it wasn't the same guy. So my bad. Mistaken Afro. Yes, I don't know who Afro Jack is. But then again, I say it all the time. I'm an analog guy living in a digital world. I'm an old, salty rock and roll guitar player who didn't make it in the industry. So he's bitter, doesn't listen to any of that new stuff these young whippersnappers have. I don't know how much of a mind game it was because it clearly didn't rattle Carson at all because they came out of the gates hot. Maybe if anything, it added a chip on their shoulder going, look at these guys making us wait on what we consider our own home turf. I think that's kind of where you can go at it. But maybe Steve was just trying to get his boys amped. Maybe it really was what you were saying, playing mind games, trying to frustrate them. But you wouldn't think that that was the case, especially with the way that they played.
Yeah, my quick thoughts on it, Philly, didn't like it. You know what the mind games were? Going into the half up 2-0. Dominating a half despite giving Galaxy some good chances and still not allowing anything. You mentioned it. What was it? Something like 10 or 12 to 2 or 3 on shots in that first half. I mean, we dominated every bit of it. We dominated every bit of that half by the numbers.
11 shots inside the box. 11 shots inside the box. We carved them up.
Absolutely. So I just thought it was a little unnecessary, the mind games. But you know what? That's just me. I'm with you. I don't think we need to
chill. Maybe he was just, talking to the boys. Just chill.
Absolutely. Maybe he got a call from the U.S. men's national team.
Stop with all of this. Matty Bogusz, and now you're talking about Steve. Enough. You've heard of the laws of attraction. You've read The Secret. Enough of this. Let's talk about this like mid-December after we hoist our second MLS Cup, please.
I want it to be Jurgen Klopp. My hot take on it is it's a really interesting time when your coach is better than your players. So if we bring in Jurgen Klopp, I don't know. But either way, I don't want Steve to go. I don't want Matty to go, for the record. Either way, Philly, first 10 minutes or so, back and forth, right? It's kind of what we saw in the first half. And then I'm going to say, here's my take on it, Philly. From the Galaxy goal to about the 78th minute, where I actually thought that Greg Vanney messed up the mojo for Carson, from about the 56th minute to about the 78th minute, those 22 minutes of the match, what we saw was a boxer on the ropes who knew that they had to win the match by knockout, that it couldn't go to the judges' scorecards, and we saw Carson's best shot. We saw them play much better. We saw them start to attack from the wings. We saw them give the ball to Ricky Pooch a little bit less on some of these opportunities and let Julian Aude and let Gabriel Peck and let Joseph Paintsel, although Sergey said no to anything Joseph tried to do, let those guys on the outside really start to create, open up the lanes a little bit more than they did. For the 22 minutes there, I thought we saw Carson's best shot. What do you think?
I agree, because they did come at us rough. They came out with more purpose, and most of their passing seemed to have some type of direction and some, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Urgency to them. And yes, that goal that was scored by Peck, they carved us up. Yamani and a Peck over to Pooch, back to Yamani. He somehow broke through Atuesta, Murillo, and Long, and then Peck stuck it to us to get into the scoring column. So that was their clawback. But then, not even a minute later, we had a near visit to Heart Attack City because it was Paintsel who had his moment to shine. Thankfully, he overcooked it, and that would have spelled disaster for us had they converted that quickly to tie the game. I heard on the replay of the broadcast how Hugo Lloris was absolutely ripping into Aaron Long after that play was dead. And, the one thing I would say to myself, I was thinking this is me, you, and Max were together, never ceases to amaze me. With these regular season games, there is no relaxing. Other than the COVID Cup in Orlando, where we whooped them, and I mean regular season, where we whooped them with Diego Rossi's, that was the one he had 4 goals, if I'm not mistaken. Every single game has been nerve-wracking, one way or another, regardless who's up, who's not. Every single game. In this game, right there, it had several moments up to that where it was like, oh, God, they're going to come back, and this is going to be ugly. We're going to walk out with a draw.
And look, it was exactly what we did in the first half, right? We get the goal off of the header with Kai Kamara in the 40th minute, and then Atuesta goes down in the 41st. We get the penalty in the 44th. It was getting a team on tilt, getting that first ball to find the back of the net does something to the other side. It absolutely did something to us for sure. 56-minute goal, 57th minute Paintsel, 61st minute. I talked about it at the very beginning of the episode when they went on that huge counter after the 8th minute corner. Well, in the 61st minute, another huge counter, and it's Gabriel Peck with the ball at his feet, undressing 2 of our defenders before that cross was snuffed out by Murillo. Murillo, by the way, played a very solid game as well on that back line. But it was those moments where it was opportunity after opportunity where LAFC got caught a little bit on tilt. And I actually thought it was the subs for Greg Vanney that hurt the momentum a little bit. Not this first sub in the 63rd where they bring on John Nelson for Julian Aude, because Julian Aude, he was clearly not right. He was gimping a little bit. He had taken a couple hard knocks. So I think he was just trying to get a fresher body. Julian Aude, though, much more offensively oriented. John Nelson, much better defensively oriented. But it was one of those things where I thought that, maybe not the best move in that moment. Bring on somebody a little more offensively oriented. But then we pick up a yellow. It was kind of a soft yellow on Timothy Tillman, right? Yeah. And then Hugo has to make another save from Ricky Pooch. Not much on that shot. But here we are now.
Soft as Charmin, baby. Soft as Charmin. But not as soft as Dude Wipes.
There you go.
Actually, no. Dude Wipes are soft. If it was hard, it wouldn't be appealing. Never mind.
I think that what we saw, you mentioned Hugo kind of barking at Aaron Long. I also think Aaron Long, according to Steve Cherundolo, may have picked up a little something, right? They said the sub was precautionary in the Giggity 69th minute. The sub with Maxim Cho coming on for Aaron Long. And what that really allowed us to do in that moment was to have 2 aerial defenders in Jesus Murillo and now Maxim Cho, who's back there. And he's another aerial target. He's actually very good at getting up on those aerial balls. And Philly, I thought that putting in Maxim Cho kind of calmed things down a little bit more for us, but still not quite out of the woods yet was LAFC.
No, we almost had an opportunity for an insurance goal in the 76th. We saw a near sequel of that Kamara goal that we saw in the first half. Yeah. Matty is there to take the corner. Kai skies above Jalen Neal yet again, but J-Mac was there to make the save. And as the kids would say back in the 90s, Kai absolutely posterized Neal. Jalen Neal's going to be a solid player, by the way. He's already represented the U.S. men's national team on the youth side. Kid's going to be good, and he's got a thing or two to learn, and Kai Kamara's definitely taught him a thing or two, but how good would that have felt? That insurance goal in front of the supporters. That would have been the pure jubilation, the ecstatic energy that we would have needed, but J-Mac, again, another tremendous save.
Yeah, good save. And you know what? I want to go back to my notes because maybe it wasn't even the 78th minute when he makes those subs. In the 72nd minute, what I really liked that LAFC did for the first time in that half, especially after we were being pressed, we had a corner after the shot was deflected. The corner was defended well, but Carson couldn't clear it. And what we decided to do was possess the ball. It was a beautiful thing. We saw that Carson was beginning to make a good couple of runs. So in the 72nd minute, what does LAFC do? They possess the ball. They take the air out of the match a little bit. We get a shot from Denis Bouanga. We get another good corner. And it's one of those that, were we able to kind of start to take the air out of the ball a little bit there in the 72nd. But again, after that huge save by John McCarthy, they bring in Miguel Berry and Diego Fagundes. Diego Fagundes, who was my player to watch for the match, and I really thought he would do some good things for Carson. But I thought that the subs to bring on Berry and Fagundes for Edwin Cerrillo, who has been a great find for them from Dallas. They got him last year from Dallas. But taking off Cerrillo and especially taking off Dejan Joveljic, who you have to account for him wherever he is at the pitch at any time. I don't think you have to do that in the same way as you do with Miguel Berry, though he scored goals in substitution situations for Carson earlier in the year. And you certainly don't have to account for Fagundes, although he's more of a veteran presence out there than Edwin Cerrillo. I was just surprised that they made those subs still. And honestly, Philly, that took the air out of the ball, because while you and I were, we were nerve-wracking central for sure in the box, honestly, there wasn't a ton that Carson did after the 80th minute that was threatening, maybe unnerving, but not threatening.
Yeah, well, 85th minute was, what you said, threatening. There was chaos. I mean, Pooch had a little soft off-target shot. Paintsel recovered it. Lloris tips the ball over, gets over to Cuevas, who just scored a few days prior against San Jose. And, Hollingshead and Chanot get back, and it comes off of Ryan for a corner. That was an unnerving moment. But fortunately, crisis was averted. We would get 3 minutes of stoppage. Paintsel had one last attempt. He really did not have a good game. And thankfully, he did not have a good game, because he really is a solid pickup for Carson. But that's all she wrote, man. Like, it was a tremendous.
Don't forget, we got to give Ilie his props.
Yes,
after Ricky
100%.
Pooch. Don't forget, Ricky Pooch kind of meandered through the box, broke a couple of ankles, and of all players who were there, it was Ilie.
Yeah.
Ilie stepped back, cleared that ball away from Ricky Pooch in the 90th minute. You're absolutely right. Nothing really happened in stoppage time, Philly, and just like that, 12 straight in all competitions, 10 straight in MLS play.
Both club records.
Over those 12 matches, 30-6, a plus 24 goal differential, 30-6. And obviously, you talked about it at the top. We've now won 6 of 7, either in the MLS regular season or MLS Cup playoffs. 6 of 7. And by the way, 6 of 8. But yes, we all know that was when we played Children in the 2-0 loss in the Open Cup. So I get it. Our Mets just lost 14-2, by the way, to Paul Skeens. Just thought I'd let you know that. Just got that coming across the feed.
Wow. That's right. Today was the Pirates. Yeah.
We've outscored Carson 18-12 over those last 7 matches. But Philly, here's the other good part. We are now 1 win away from evening the MLS regular season series. 6 wins for us, 7 wins for them, and all 5 draws have come in the MLS regular season. So we're almost there, man. We're almost there.
Almost there. And like our next game against them is going to be September 14th. And if we win, it'll be the first time in this rivalry's history where there's been an entire season sweep over the regular season. That's never happened before. Right. And that should set the stage really well for a potential rematch in the MLS Cup playoffs. You mentioned the way that we've outscored teams in the past 12 games. I think he's a Galaxy employee, because I know he's followed by several Galaxy employees. His handle on Instagram is Brandinho. And on one of the MLS chats, he talked about what a clown club LAFC is, because it's only PKs that help them score goals and take points off the table. And that really is a clown take by an employee of a clown front office and organization, so to speak. To think that it's only PKs that have propelled us in our stretch, kind of ridiculous. So if anybody out there sees a Brandinho comment calling us a club, a clown club. Reference Scarf stats about how many goals that we've scored in these last couple of months. Idiot take, Brandinho.
Yeah. By the way, LAFC faithful, are you ready? Because we're about to run a gauntlet. We are about to run a gauntlet of matches in July. July 4th, July 7th against Houston Dynamo in Houston. July 10th, U.S. Open Cup against New Mexico United at BMO. July 13th, July 17th, July 20th. I mean, just think about that. That's 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 4 days, 3 days. Oh, my God. And then let's go play in the league's League's Cup on July 26th and July 30th. I'm excited about the game against Xolos. I'm not excited about our 16th match in 2 years against Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yes.
I have a thought on League's Cup, and y'all might hate me for it, but we have this gauntlet of MLS Cup match or MLS regular season matches that could potentially get us the Supporters Shield, that could potentially have us home field advantage throughout the course of the playoffs. We're chasing two teams in the West with Miami and FC Cincinnati doing what they're doing. I'm saying something y'all aren't going to like. I think we punt League's Cup. I
don't think anybody's going to be really mad at that, Scarf.
I think people are going to be mad because we're playing on a huge stage. Look, what we know is the Mexican supporters come out to see those Mexican teams in Los Angeles. And with that match, the Xolos match, it's going to be a big match. That's going to be a really interesting match. I could care less about the Vancouver match. But I would really like to see us put out a combination of our second team and LAFC2 kids to come play in League's Cup. No. Go win Open Cup, beat down New Mexico United, and then whoever else is coming. But I'm just saying, this is my take, and we all know how wrong I was to say this about Open Cup last year. So I'll say it again. This is my take. There's only Scarf here. I think we punt.
You do realize that's still an entry into CONCACAF Champions League, right?
I do.
Look, if you want to put the kids against Vancouver, fine. No problem. But there's no way you could put the kids against Xolos. Like, no way. And the only reason I would say we wouldn't punt on U.S. Open Cup is because we've made it further along. This is a legitimate trophy that we can.
Oh, we don't punt on Open Cup. Go for Open Cup.
What I'm saying is we wouldn't because we've made it that far. If it was an order of succession in terms of tournaments that were more important, I'd hate to say it because I know your affinity towards the U.S. Open Cup and how you love to do research on teams like Monterey Bay FC.
Don't do it.
And clubs like Oakland Roots. And look, the USL is fine. I don't enjoy it personally. I would put U.S. Open Cup well below League's Cup. And while it might be a cash grab, sure, what isn't a cash grab in football globally, period? They're talking about doing a Baltic Cup now in Europe for the countries that are involved there for another opportunity to cash in the prizes. And why not? It's all about money, right? That's how you get players and how you win, right? Not in all cases. But the reason why we wouldn't punt against New Mexico United is because we got a shot at doing things.
7 matches in 22 days when you're talking about that match against Xolos.
This team is ready. They went through hell last year. This is a cakewalk.
And you saw what happened to us at the end of last year. 7 matches in 22 days. I think that's an awful lot. 8 matches in 26 days. But look, please punt against Vancouver. Please, if you're going to do anything, play the kids against Vancouver. Ugh. Yeah, I put that up before. You didn't notice it. You were
sorry. I was in mid grinding gears moment.
Yeah. So LAFC top spot in the West, 13 wins, 43 points, 21 matches. We now have a little bit of separation between us, but look, all that can change over the course of a week. 47 points for Miami, 45 points for FC Cincinnati, and 43 points for LAFC. That's the Supporters Shield race. We still have a shot. Messi is still playing, so he's going to be gone for a little bit. I don't know about FC Cincinnati. They keep rolling along. We're going to have to see them maybe pick up an injury or lose a player or something like that. We'll see what happens, Philly. But you know what? Heading into this gauntlet as we get set to take on Houston Dynamo in Houston, July 7th, 5:30 p.m., Apple TV. As we get set to take on this gauntlet, Philly, I would much rather be us than any other team in the West.
I agree. It's this is a really good time to be a supporter of LAFC. As the saying goes, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Nah, man, it's really about the destination. But the journey has been a heck of a lot of fun. We just whooped up on our bitter and honestly eternal rivals at this point. 6 out of 7 wins against them. We are firing on all cylinders, and we're only going to get better. Yes, we've got the Dynamo in a couple of days where we could break out our cans of Orange Crush and smash them on the floor. But enjoy this moment for right now. Feels damn good to be black and gold. And if you've been on this ride from the get-go, you especially feel well. And shout out to everybody who supports this club. And shout out to everybody, by the way, who's chiming in the chats. The people that have come on, the numbers that we're seeing all across the board, this is pretty good. It seems as if the millions
and millions
do enjoy our podcast more when we do it at a relatively reasonable time. I would like to take a poll at some point to know when y'all would really like to hear the pod. Do you enjoy the mornings after? If it's a Monday, we can't do that. The Sundays, we possibly can. Or would you just prefer it in the afternoons, possibly during rush hour? I really would like to know, because we need to hammer this out. We need to have some consistency, Scarf, because when we go on and it says, hey, Defenders of the Bank is about to go live, and we hold on for 27 minutes because I'm either in the bathroom or you're cleaning out the garage or whatever the case may be, we should probably have a set time.
Listen, when our schedules have a set time, we can do a set time, but we are all over the place and as many times as possible. That's why the support from all of you out there in Defenders Nation means the absolute world to us. And we have Alan Hernandez right now in the chat who is literally coming on saying, while driving a garbage truck, he's here commenting. How amazing is that? Obviously, our good buddy Jonathan Reimer, our sometimes funny friend Chris Lafferty in the chat as well. By the way,
also ISIS, genuine cougar.
Laugh, you made me you made me laugh pretty hard with the Don Garber comment. That might be the comment that wins the day. I will read it out loud because I think it's that funny. Don Garber accidentally calls out Liga MX instead of his wife's name in bed. Pretty
family friendly. Eesh.
Listen, just calling out like in a fever dream or something like that. You know, when you have like when it's late and you just talk in your sleep is what they're talking about there. So.
Liga MX.
Just saying. Listen, it has been an incredible episode. Certainly not all mixed up. Carson is headed down like 311 the band, but not LAFC. Coming up roses in our 2-1 win against the Galaxy. Philly, we're a little over an hour. What do you think? Time to wrap up shop?
Yeah, I got pizza waiting for me.
I love it. Enjoy your pizza, brother.
All right. Thank you all, and we'll see you for one more sleep mañana.
That's tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.